Hey everybody, Mr. Dickin here. In this video, we're going to do just a quick little recap on all things regarding functions and function operations and function notation. The assignment for today is going to be a worksheet, and that's going to be the quiz review, and that's just kind of tying everything together that we've talked about in the previous 6 lessons. The answer key will be provided to you digitally. You'll also see the answers provided in this video, so later on if you want to pause, feel free to do so. So my plan here is to go through 2 examples with you guys that have multiple parts, and then from there I'll throw the answer key up to the actual worksheet, and that'll do it for the video. So let's first start off with the initial aspects of this unit when we're dealing with function and kind of going back to domain range and function notations. All right, so first, the domain is going to be your x value. The range is going to be your y values. And how domain works is you want to figure out what is the leftmost. So the furthest left our graph goes. Let me use a highlighter here. So the furthest left that our graph goes is going to be at -1. And then the furthest to the right that it goes is going to be at +6. Oh, that's a positive one, not a -1. So my domain is going to be everything from 1 to 6. So 1, 6. And now we have to figure out, well, how are we closing those off? Is it going to be square brackets, parentheses? What are we using? And the way we determine that is you look at the endpoints here. If it's filled in, it's going to get a square bracket. If it's not filled in, it'll get a parenthesis. So for this particular example, it'll be 1, 6. The 1 has a bracket, and the 6 has a parenthesis. All right, the range is going to be very similar. However, the range deals with the y value. So it's going to go the lowest point. So the lowest value this thing hits is going to be at -4. And the highest point, well, the highest point that it hits is up here at +5. Remember, the highest point isn't necessarily the end point. All right, so that's an important thing to keep in mind here. Down here at -4, we have a closed filled-in dot. Up here at +5, the line itself is filled in, so it would be defined there. So we'd have brackets on both sides. -4, 5, both of those getting brackets. All right, now into function notation. F of 3, so the function value, if my input is 3, what is the output? Well, that would be 4. So if x is 3, then y is going to be 4. Similar logic, f of 6. If I plugged in 6 for x, what's my y value? Well, it looks here like our y value would be 1. However, you'll notice this is not filled in. That means our function is undefined. So you could write a null set symbol. You could say does not exist. Our function is undefined at an x value of 6. Let's see if I can actually fit the word undefined in here, if I can write with that penmanship. Oh, look at that. Not my best work, but whatever. All right, then lastly, for what values is f of x, aka the y value? So when is y greater than or equal to +1? So here's y equals 1. I want to know where is my graph above, since it's greater than or equal to, above 1. And it looks like we're going from the x values of 2 to 6, but 6 is not included. So the way I would write this out is going to be 2, 6. 2 is included, 6 would not be. All right, let's jump into a graph problem here. Here we have 2 graphs, and I think we actually saw this example on previous lesson, but we want to figure out different function evaluations from here. You'll notice down at the bottom we have our composition functions. So these were the f of g style functions. They're just written in a more user-friendly format. So if we want to find f of 2, first off, f tells me I'm dealing with the blue function here, right? The f function is this guy. My input value is 2, so I'm going to look at the f function. When x is 2, what's the y value? So when x is 2, my y value, so this point right here would be, that's a 1. Next up, g of 3. G of 3. So the g function is the red function. When my x value is 3, what's the g function value? That's going to be negative 8. So g of 3 is going to be negative 8. F of g of negative 4. F of g of negative 4. Well, first, we need to figure out what is g of negative 4. So g of negative 4, that's going to be the red function. G of negative 4 is going to be negative 1. So now I'm kind of working from the inside out. I need to figure out what is f of negative 1. So I'll go to the negative 1, x value, and I'm figuring out for my f function. So f of negative 1 is going to be a positive 2. So I kind of had 2 steps. Next up, g of f of 0. G of f of 0. Well, this is going to be g of, we need to figure out what is f of 0. So the f function is going to be the blue one. When x is 0, my f blue function is going to be 1. So this is asking what is g of 1. Let's see. My g function, if x is 1, what's the g value? That's going to be negative 6. Then lastly, f of negative 3. You can compose one function into the other. You can compose a function into itself. That's technically legal. It's going to behave the exact same way. So first, let's figure out what is f of negative 3, and then we'll evaluate accordingly. So f of negative 3 is going to be the blue function. Negative 3 for my x value. What y value pairs up? It's going to be 4. So this is really asking find f of 4. So now I go, when x is 4, what's the y value? And that looks like it's going to be 3. All right, so that's it for kind of the warm-up problems that we would have done together as a group. Now, as promised, here is the answer key to the review. And as before, you'll notice this is not my penmanship. So this belongs to Miss Thestu. She's got great handwriting. I, however, do not. So if you see her, congratulate her on the lovely penmanship. If you need to pause the video here so you can kind of take a closer look at some, by all means, go for it. And then the back page of the review. Same thing here. If you need to pause, feel free to do so. One thing I'm going to suggest on the problems here on the back, make sure you're paying very close attention where it's domain and range, the parentheses versus brackets. Same thing down here for the x values. Pay attention to parentheses versus brackets. All right, that's all I've got for you, folks. You know the drill. If you have any questions, let me know. And as always, good luck, have fun, be safe, roll tide.